Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Masliansky. Today we have Miriam Ament from the organization called No Shame on You. And Miriam, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about what your organization does.
So No Shame on You is dedicated to eliminating the stigma associated with mental health conditions and to raising mental health awareness. And our goal is for the people who need help to seek it, for family members and friends to know how to provide proper support and to save lives. And we achieve this in a number of ways. We have community outreach programs, classes, and workshops. We do a lot of presentations. We just hit 90,000 Facebook followers yesterday, so we have a big online presence where we share tools and resources daily. And we also distribute a lot of resources like fact sheets and crisis information magnets.
That's fantastic. And, when did you start it?
So we started in 2014, end of 2014, and our very first event was in November of 2015. So I built a board, and we started building ourselves up and thinking about how we're going to approach trying to tackle these issues.
That's great. What made you decide to do this?
So over 16 years ago, I was actually hospitalized 3 times for depression. And the second time I was hospitalized, one of my then closest friends called me when I was in the hospital and said, I only want to talk to you when you're happy, so let's not talk again for a while. And then I never heard from her again. So I kept it a secret for a long time. That actually extended my hospital stay and kind of broke me down even more.
Oh,
and
God.
yeah, and so kept it a secret a long time, worked in a totally different field, did different things. And then about 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet the actress Glenn Close, who is a big mental health advocate. And I ended up telling her my whole story, and I realized if I can tell this legendary actress Glenn Close, who was just this year again nominated for an Oscar, if I can tell her, I can really have an impact in my community where there appeared to be such a need. So I ended up taking what I thought was this big negative and turning it into hopefully turning it into a positive and trying to have an impact instead of keeping it a secret.
I think that's great. And who do you help? What do you do to help people?
So we offer a lot of different types of programs. We offer mental health first aid a few times a year, which is training sort of like CPR for mental health, where people can gain tools and skills of how to react to crisis situations for both youth and adults. And how to react to people who have anxiety, depression, any type of mental health condition, and how to cope and how to help them heal and get them to resources. We also we have a couple different support groups. We have a young adult support group that we do with the ARC called Kadima that we have a couple times a month. We also do a drop-in night once a month with Maggie's Place at Mishkan, which is another wonderful place a wellness center where we have people come and just hang out and feel like themselves in community. Mm-hmm. So that's another wonderful place we do. We also have documentary screenings and have all types of offerings. We go to fairs. We marched in the Skokie 4th of July parade for our 4th year in a row this summer. We sort of hold our banner proudly and hand out all sorts of resources to the thousands of people who are there. So we sort of try to reach people in a number of different ways. And we also post, like I said, we have a big Facebook following, so we post resources daily. So we sort of try in a number, because not everyone wants to go to a program because of the stigma or because they might not want to be seen in a mental health thing. We try to appeal to people and meet people where they are in their journey.
And why do you think there's been such a stigma for, mental health issues or being able to get help for, mental health conditions?
I think it's tricky. I think it comes from a lot of things. I think there's society and how language is used can really have an impact on how people perceive mental health conditions, where people, a terrible example, but sort of an important example, is people say commit suicide, as if suicide is a crime. You say commit a crime. Instead of, we try to change the language and say die by suicide, because it's in the same way someone, God forbid, dies of cancer or something, you wouldn't say committed cancer. You wouldn't, so it's the same type of how we perceive and how we talk about it is one reason why there's such stigma and shame. I think also sometimes the media, the way people with mental health conditions have been portrayed in movies and TV and even in news stories sometimes can change how people perceive and talk about mental health. Whereas if we think about it as a brain disease like any other physical condition, and just as you would get help if you broke your leg, if your brain is going through something, you would get help for it. When people start thinking about it like that, I think that can have make a big difference and have a big impact on how people think about these things.
It makes me think. in religious study, they talk about suicide as being the ultimate sin. And I think that's ingrained in people as they grow up. I didn't really think about it until now, but like that is the ultimate sin.
So I think I understand what you're saying, and religion does play an important part in the conversation also. And I think now more and more religions and people who, clergy and people, faith leaders are seeing more and more that it's mental health is a physical condition and suicide is a result of having a mental health condition in the same way other deaths are result from a physical condition. And I think more and more faith leaders are seeing it as a physical condition, suicide a result of a physical condition rather than a sin per se. Right. And they're sort of framing it differently. So I think that's an important thing. And another thing to point out is that suicide, there's something called akathisia, which is a side effect of some medications. It's a rare side effect, but it can cause someone to feel suicidal, someone who's never been suicidal before and has never even had a mental health condition can all of a sudden feel suicidal. It's a rare side effect, but it's important to note that there are actually different types of suicide or different ways that people end up dying by suicide.
Yeah, I've seen that actually on certain medications where it's a potential side effect. It's like,
right.
Well, is it worth it to take this?
Well, so I think it's just right. No, it's just important to when people stop, start, or change medication. There's actually an organization, a colleague and a good friend of mine named Wendy Dolan has an organization called MIST, which is about educating people about when you stop, start, or change medication to make sure you're being monitored. And if you see you're acting agitated or you see some certain side effects you've never had before, to really be mindful of them and make sure you're being monitored. And I think that it doesn't mean don't take medication. They're not anti-medication. It's just a matter of making sure people are aware and mindful of potential side effects.
Right. And, I think another part of it is because people now admit that somebody died by suicide rather than blame it on something else. I think we realize that there's a lot more people that touch within our spheres that have died that way.
Yes, more people die by suicide than in car accidents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really it's really a prominent, people don't realize this because they're, like you said, a lot of people haven't been talking about it and now they are talking about it more.
Right, they blame it on something else.
Right, because people, and more people are being open about a family member. In fact, more and more people are being open about it when a family member dies by suicide than they have been. Not everyone is, but more and more people are being open, and then people realize, wow, like this is really happening in every community. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
It can happen to anyone.
Yeah, I had a pledge brother of mine in my fraternity. He died by suicide.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and there's a couple people that grew up near me too, and it's just you just realize, oh my God, this is a major issue.
Yeah,
and people need to be able to go and get help. I mean, why don't we mention where, if somebody does need help, where can they go? So
there's, first of all, a 24/7 National Suicide Prevention Crisis Line, which is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. For people who don't want to call, there's also a national 24/7 crisis text line, which is 741-741. And those are two 24/7 all the time available with active people, trained active listeners or responders ready to help and guide you to the best. That's for a crisis. And,
sure.
And of course, always you can call 911 also if you're with someone or you yourself are experiencing a crisis. So those are different avenues to take in a crisis situation. But there are also tons of other resources for people. If someone's feeling alone, there are websites out there with free with like trained active listeners. If you just want to bounce some things off someone, or you're not necessarily in a crisis, but you're feeling like, I really wish I had someone to talk to about this. And so there's something called 7cups.com, which is a website where you can just chat with someone who's trained in understanding and listening and being a good sounding board for things like that. So those are just a few examples, but there are lots of ways for people to get help and support and that they need. And also, No Shame on You has we do a lot of different programming and stuff like that, which we can get into later.
Okay. And, one thing I think is pretty interesting is that you can do, like where there's video conferencing with, specialists to help you now. So it's like you don't necessarily need to go in and see a provider. You could do it remotely.
Yes, there's teletherapy and telepsychiatry, exactly. So especially for people who live in areas where they're not so close to therapists and psychiatrists, now there are many, many ways to have access remotely that didn't exist even 10 years ago.
Right.
So, yeah.
I have a friend who's working for a company that does that, and I think it's so cool.
It's amazing, yeah. No, it's amazing because it's been a big problem for people in certain communities who just can't get to, don't have too many therapists and psychiatrists near them. So It's a great way to get mental health help without, the concern of how am I going to get to the appointment, or I don't have 5 hours to take off to get, so it's a great way to reach people and get them help.
It is, and there's even like apps, I think, too.
Yes, there are a lot of apps also for therapy as well, like Talkspace and BetterHelp. There's a lot out there now that didn't exist before.
I know, like on Conan O'Brien's podcast, he talks about, there's an advertisement for one of these apps, and he like talks about. He's serious about everything else is a joke, but he's like, no, you guys should try this, and because I think he's very. Open about his mental health condition, battles that he's had.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That's great. I know he went through some hard times when there were he had a late night show on NBC and then he didn't, and that's really that's interesting. That I'm glad to hear that he's open about it. I'm sorry he's going through stuff, but
well, yeah, I mean, you should. I think it related maybe to his childhood, not even the late night wars.
Oh,
and he's battled through depression. He talks about and. He, I like listening to Howard Stern, and Howard had Conan on, and they had a whole discussion about their mental, health, and Howard Stern's a huge advocate for.
He's always been super open.
I think he said he goes like 4 times a week.
Right.
But they had a great conversation about it, and Conan opened up about it, and now he talks about it, and I think it's great for. You need these media leaders to talk about it to get more awareness, and it helps get rid of the shame. And I think that's one of the great things about your fundraiser that's coming up, where you bring in celebrities to talk about it, and it makes everyone realize, okay, we all could discuss this.
Exactly. So first of all, thank you for alerting me about Conan O'Brien. I know Howard Stern has been an unbelievable advocate for mental health help, and really a role, like in some ways, because people don't look at him and think he'd be the kind of guy that would go.
Right. They think he's a tough guy.
Right. And he's actually.
And he is a tough guy for doing it.
Exactly. And he's showing that anyone could need help, and it's okay to get help. And so that's amazing. And Conan, in his own right, is an amazing guy. So the fact that they had that conversation, I definitely want to listen to it. In terms of, so one of the things we do is every year we have an annual event, and this year we're excited that we're going to have Sean Astin, who, for Lord of the Rings fans, he was in Lord of the Rings, and he's Stranger Things fans. He played Bob in Stranger Things in season 2 of Stranger Things, and he's been in The Big Bang Theory, and he's been he played Rudy in the movie Rudy, and
that's right,
the
he was
Goonies.
Rudy.
Yeah, so he's done a ton of stuff, and he's the son of Patty Duke, who lived with bipolar disorder, and so he grew up with a mom with bipolar disorder, and he's become a very big mental health advocate. And I think having someone like him, who's pretty high profile, and talk about the advocating for mental health and the need to get help, and it's okay to get help, is really huge and helps really normalize the conversation. So that's been our big event every year, where we try to have someone higher profile talk about it's okay to get help and in mental health awareness, and really try to show the community, the Skokie-Evanston community and beyond, that there's no need to be ashamed. There's no need not to get help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. And look at these higher profile people. I want to point out also that we are having a Skokie teen share his mental health journey, including residential treatment that he had this year. So we also try to have someone from the community share their journey as well, so that people understand there are people from their very own community who are living with these things and going through it and sharing their journey, in addition to having someone higher profile. So we're excited to have both of them be sharing their stories and journeys, and hopefully making a difference in the community.
Yes, I hope so. And when is that taking place? So
that's November 3rd, Sunday night, November 3rd, at the Holiday Inn on Toohey in Skokie. And we'd love for your listeners to come. It's on our website, is noshameonyou.org. If you go to the events page, you'll see it there, or you could go to the Eventbrite link for more information, which is nsou2019.eventbrite.com.
Okay. And again, that's November 3rd, Sunday, November 3rd. So everyone should go and attend. And I imagine, this type of fundraising, this is how your organization runs, right?
So it's definitely one of the ways we definitely are able to keep going is having this one annual event. We try to make it affordable for the community too, so it's not one of those where it's $1,000 to get in or anything like that. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there is a fee, but we'll accommodate anyone. Our most important thing is we want to reach people and normalize the conversation and get people help and provide education to family members and friends. So if anyone can't come, we want to accommodate them and don't want cost to be a deterrent. So I think it's important for me to say that. At the same time, sure. It is a way for us to raise some money and keep our programs going. We also have been fortunate to get some grants and other opportunities. We were part of an accelerator that helped us with funding, and we've had some great grant opportunities. In fact, we were talking about suicide prevention before. We got a grant with a JUF Breakthrough Fund grant with JCFS and MIST, the organization I mentioned earlier, for mm-hmm. suicide prevention programming and support for survivors of suicide loss. And we're very excited that we got this grant, and we're starting to do a lot of programming in the community. We already started last year, and with this grant, it's propelling us forward to do that much more. So we are thankful that we've had a lot of support from the community and foundations and different opportunities, in addition to our annual event.
That's great. And talk about some of the programming that you do and how it's been successful for you.
Yeah, so we've been offering mental health first aid a few times a year for about 3 years now, and it's really amazing how many people who didn't even know that mental health first aid existed and that there was a way to get trained, much like CPR for a physical crisis. And we've really reached a lot of parts of the community, all ages really get this training. So that's been one way we're really pleased that we've been able to reach out and educate and get people help in the community. We're trying to do more, in addition to holding it for the community, we're also going to be starting to target teachers from different schools and really try to make sure that educational leaders and clergy and all types of people get training and sort of targeted so that we have classes available at times that are good for teachers and other stuff like that. So we're excited to branch out and do more of that. We also do our support groups for young adults that I mentioned earlier has been really great at the ARC. A lot of people in their intensive day program they wanted to have more peers that were young adults because they really feel a lack of connectedness. Right. So we were honored to be a part of that. We launched that in June, and we've been seeing increasing numbers and people coming, some of the same people coming every single time when they can, and it's been really great and formed a nice community, and we're hoping to grow and do that. Our drop-in nights at Maggie's Place has been amazing. We have a lot of people, again, who come, someone who hadn't been able to come for a while who just came back, and he was so happy to be there. So a lot of different kind of community building things. We also like I said, we marched in the Skokie 4th of July parade, and we reached so many people there, and people were excited to see a mental health. It's not your typical thing to see.
No, it's not.
In the Skokie 4th of July parade, but we were really thrilled. We have a great reception, and we hand out a lot of resources, which is really really nice and gets kids engaged too. And kids, we have bracelets that have our website on it with a lot of resources, and that's something that kids like. And even if just to let them know we're out there and that there's this thing and we're talking about it on the 4th of July.
I'll get a bracelet.
Yeah, I'll give you a bracelet. So we're excited that we go to a lot of fairs and hand out resources. And we showed another example of something we do is we showed the movie, and we also do presentations. Just last Sunday, actually, I was at a synagogue giving a presentation about mental health and stigma, and had a really nice response from the community for a Sunday morning brunch. So that was a really nice presentation we did. We spoke at Gidwitz Center this summer with the executive director of the Jewish Women's Foundation, who we're honored to be a grantee of, and we did a presentation with the older adults there, which was really lovely. So we've done a lot of different things, and we also showed the documentary Angst, which is for ages 10 and up. It is a documentary about teens and living with anxiety, and it showed the perspective of teens and parents and educators and mental health professionals. So that was also a very cool thing we did.
So you're really, you're targeting different aspects of, like you go to a senior facility, and I think that actually that's really important because I do think there's a lot of depression within the senior community, and I feel like that generation, there is more shame to discuss And it's really important that they're able to realize, no, it's okay to discuss it, and it's okay to have this anxiety.
Exactly. So we actually did something called a Life Notes with CJE, which is the Council for Jewish Elderly, and we created sort of a pamphlet with them about depression in older adults and what to do and how to get resources and to try to normalize the conversation. And when we presented at Gidwitz, we spoke a lot about that and the reception they had. It was a full room, and they were very pleased that so many people came out to talk about mental health, and there were a lot of questions, and it's exactly what you're talking about. A lot of people do think that there should be shame, and people were really, I saw sort of a change in the conversation and people understanding that there's a need, and that 1 in 4 adults lives with a mental health condition, and that unfortunately teens and young adults, anxiety and depression are rising, and people are seeing it. Unfortunately, the statistics are just showing the rates are going up. And so I think reaching all ages, and older adults often see it in their grandchildren or their children, so exactly. So reaching different populations is huge, and has been a wonderful thing we've been able to do.
And you've had, there's more veterans, that were in those age groups, and there's, probably people still dealing with PTSD from their experiences.
Exactly. In fact, PTSD is a huge thing with veterans, and 22 veterans die by suicide every day, which is a big problem and something we're all trying to address, because it's very hard. I mean, we were talking earlier about PTSD can happen to anyone from any type of situation. And we were talking about that before we got on the air. And certainly with veterans, it's they're coming back, trying to acclimate after being in such traumatic situations, and they're trying to acclimate being back in society with their families and friends and stuff like that can be really, really hard. So these are all people that we're trying to advocate for and help and show that there are resources and there's no shame in getting them. So someone like, going back to Howard Stern, someone like Howard Stern, who, people look up to as this tough guy saying, hey, I get help 4 times a week. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I need help. I'm not, my brain, needs some support, and I get it. So, hopefully that those kind of messages are reaching as many people as we can.
And do you partner with other organizations that do similar types of things?
Yes, so we partner with a lot of organizations. We're really grateful. Like I said, we got a grant with JCFS and MIST, which we're excited to partner together and do. We actually did a kickoff program last December before we even got the grant on suicide prevention programming and support, and we had a big audience at that program. So that was something, and we've partnered with dozens of organizations on different programming, because we're all about making sure we reach as many people as possible. So, we complement, a lot of the organizations do different perspectives. So sometimes if we can join together on different programming, it's a way to reach more people, and we might bring something, and another organization might bring something, and together we can reach that many more people and have an even stronger message. So we definitely try to partner with as many people as we can.
And what is Maggie's Place over at Mishkan?
So Maggie's Place is a wellness center at Mishkan that they do a lot of sort of wellness type programming, and the drop-in groups is one of those that we do with them, is one of those. So that's another way that we reach people. We have our resources there. We have our resources there, and then they do a lot of different wellness programs. We were honored to do that. We did a program with them in August, a different type of program to celebrate Tu B'Av, which is considered the Jewish Valentine's Day.
Right.
So we did a program with them in August, a different type of program. But again, it was sort of like about self-care and love and gratitude. So we're honored to work with Maggie's Place as an example of an organization where we, I think, bring different things to the table, and we join together and reach that many more people.
That's great. And, what are some of the things that people can do to support your organization?
Well, thank you for asking. Come to our event, spread the word about our resources. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions or you know someone who needs help. We're all about getting the message out there that it's okay to get help and that there are a ton of resources out there. So the most important thing is, if you or someone you know is going through something, there's no shame in getting help. We have tons of resources on our website. Feel free to contact me. We want you to get help. We want your loved ones to get help. And we want people to know that there's tons of support out there. There are ways to get better, and most importantly, that you're not alone. I know when I went through my very hard times, I felt so alone, and I want people to understand that they're not alone, and there are so many people who understand that it's actually unbelievable, and I wish I knew this 15 years ago when I was going through my hard times, but there are so many people who understand, so no one is alone. Even though you're feeling it, you're not alone. And I think that's like the biggest thing that I want people to know. Of course, come to our stuff, but the most important thing is please, please, please know that you or your loved one is not alone.
And can people volunteer?
Sure, we have volunteer opportunities too. Absolutely, we love people to get involved. Yeah. Thank you for asking that.
You're welcome. When you started this 5 years ago, what was your vision of what it was going to be like 5 years from now? What would you have put in an article about what's going on?
I'm grateful and really amazed at, it's hard to, and I know you know this as someone who's an entrepreneur, like you start something and you have hopes that it'll grow and that it'll become something and that people will, it'll resonate and people will come to your programs and follow what you do and react to stuff that you put out there. And in my wildest dreams, I didn't think we'd have 90,000 followers.
Right, how does that happen?
I know, no, I'm so grateful. I mean, 90,000 followers.
I need to find out your secret.
No, but I mean, more importantly, it's just that we're reaching people and our message is resonating, and the fact that our inaugural event in 2015, we didn't know what to expect, and we had 200 people, and we were so grateful that we reached the community and people responded, and we had like you asked me about collaborating, we had organizations coming to us saying we want to collaborate, and that's continued to happen, and we're so grateful and we're so honored that we could be a partner and bring something and bring a different perspective and really reach so many people. So I'm beyond grateful that we have so many partners in different parts of the, in Skokie, Evanston, in different parts of the community, and just that
throughout
we've been able
Chicagoland
to
area.
Chicagoland area, sorry, and even nationally, but that's another story. But yeah, so we've really been able to reach so many people with some of the things we've been a part of, and I mentioned an accelerator that No Shame on You was a part of, so that's given us some national partners in addition to the Chicagoland community, and so. I feel like we've grown so much and we keep growing, and it's amazing that we have so many opportunities. Like in my wildest dreams, I didn't think we'd have, so many things where it's like hard to keep. I looked over my list this morning of what we did this year.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Right, so I'm very, very grateful. So and I'm not, I realize that we're very fortunate and that the goal is to reach as many people as possible, to help as many people as possible, to get our message out there. So the fact that we've been continuing to do that, and I have a very passionate board and people approaching me to be on the board, which is really wonderful that it's really resonating with people, or people are approaching us and saying, hey, I'd love to be a part of this. How can I help? How can I contribute? Not financially, yes, financially, but more importantly, how can I give of my time and my network and that kind of stuff to help get the message out there? Yeah. So that's been really wonderful.
Do you have, you mentioned national. What are you working on nationally, and do you have plans to expand this to more national network?
So we've been approached by a couple different by more than a couple different communities to do programming in other communities nationally, and we've been approached by organizations to possibly have them. Someone who founded an organization out of New York really likes what we do and has approached us about possibly. We have collaborated with them on a program, but also about possibly merging our networks, and so we've been approached a lot of different ways like that. We also were a part of this accelerator, which had organizations from all over the country, and we've talked about partnerships on programming and different ways to reach people through those avenues too.
Oh, that's fantastic. What's been the biggest surprise for you doing this?
That's a great question. The biggest surprise. I would say that's a really great question. That now I'm talking so openly. If you had told me 15 years ago that I'd be talking to Aaron Maslansky about my having been hospitalized 3 times, I'd be like, I'm never going to talk about that, certainly not publicly. Right. And how I have gone from keeping this secret. I worked in a law firm for 11 years, told no one about my mental health journey, and traveled with people, was with people, sometimes 20 hours a day working on trials and stuff, and never talked about it. And now, that I've been open about it, that people are so wonderful and accepting and want to be involved with us and want to work with us is really, really amazing and surprising to me. And I guess if you had told myself 15 years ago, I would have been like, no way, I'm never talking about this.
Right. Well, I think that's the whole point of your organization, that you can talk about it. We were talking before the podcast, before the episode started. I've gone through things and was attacked and near where I used to live, and it definitely puts a trauma on you, and it's okay to discuss these things because everyone's got something.
Exactly, and I'm so sorry you went through that. Yeah, we were talking about that before, and I was so sorry to hear that, and that's the thing is, when you go through that, you realize everyone has something going on, whether it's a traumatic experience of being attacked and then dealing with the aftermath of that,
Right.
or a situational, you were talking about older adults, people when they start retirement, or when a partner, their partner either gets sick, or a loss of a partner. There
Right.
are so many life events that can happen that can trigger that. Some people, keep going and it doesn't affect them so much, and some people are impacted very strongly, and that it's okay to get support for those things when they happen.
Right. And I think it's important for kids to hear, to be able to talk about things, because there's plenty of things that have happened in schools over the years.
Yes.
That have been pretty awful. And, there was a rabbi from the school that I went to who turned out to be a monster. And, that definitely, people need to be able to discuss that and work through those issues, because it can certainly mess with your mind.
100%. And I'm sorry to hear that happened. Teens, it's a big problem with teens, and there's so much going on in schools these days, in teens and young adults. College campuses also, there's a mental health crisis. Mental health centers there are waiting lists and everything else, but we're trying to reach as many people as possible and say there are other resources. And a friend of mine who has a kid in college did a lot of research, because her daughter, she wanted to make sure that there was a support network for her daughter beyond just even though mental health centers are big on college campuses now, there's so much need. So anyway,
right.
Reaching as many people as possible, making sure that all ages are supported and know that they're not alone, and there's stuff going on at every age, and it's okay to get help.
Absolutely. And again, if you want to remind everybody, when is the big event coming up?
Thanks. The big event is Sunday night, November 3rd, featuring Sean Astin from Lord of the Rings and Stranger Things 2 and The Goonies and all sorts of great stuff. And he is going to talk about mental health awareness and bipolar disorder, and growing up with a mom living with bipolar disorder. And we are also going to have a Skokie teen discuss his journey, his mental health journey, including residential treatment. So It should be a very special evening. We're also going to have a raffle for some fun. I know it's a sort of heavy topic, so we're going to have a couple fun things too. But and there'll be a flat screen TV available for raffle and stuff like that. But most importantly, it's to normalize the conversation in a special evening to really help raise awareness for the community.
That's great. And again, where can people find you online and on social media? So
www.noshameonu.org, NOSHAMEONU.org, and that's the letter U, not YOU. And we're on Facebook /No Shame on You, and Twitter and Instagram, all No Shame on You with the letter U. So definitely check us out.
And how did you get 90,000 followers?
It took a while. But yeah, it was just yesterday, so it's kind of funny. So it was like, in fact, a friend of mine called me and said, I saw that you're at 90,000. It was very sweet. So I was like, I have to post about that. Yeah, so it was very exciting. So
I need 90,000 subscribers to this podcast. And all my social media stuff that I do.
Well, hey, there's hope. If you had told me 5 years ago we'd be at 90,000, so I feel like there's definitely hope.
There's definitely hope. Well, Miriam, it's so great that you came on. Thank you for sharing what you guys do. It's so important, and I think that again, there is no shame. If you need help, get it. And No Shame on You is a great organization that's helping spread that message. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for having us on. It was such an honor to be here, and you're awesome. And everyone should grow his social media to 90,000.
That's right. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of Inside the Skev. I hope you enjoyed it. Just remember to subscribe, and if you need any assistance for your real estate needs in the Chicagoland area, or specifically Skokie, Evanston, or Skevinston, feel free to reach out to me. I am a realtor at Dreamtown Realty in Evanston. You can email me at aaron@skevinston.com or go to my website, aaronmasliansky.com. Thanks so much for listening.